Let's get a start on our budget rally car. Welcome back to the Auto Obscure Garage. Chadwick with you again for another installment of Project V50. That is not only clever, but it's also our 2005 Volvo V50 T5 all-wheel drive manual that we're building as a budget rally car. Now this is a road rally, not a WRC rally, guys. We're not going that crazy. But we do have a hard cap of $3,500, including what I paid for the vehicle, which I'll just put on the scoreboard right now. This is gonna be our running tally. So I paid $2,050 for this lovely wagon you see behind me. Every time I add a part to it, we're gonna up that tally and we're gonna try to keep it under the budget. Keep in mind too, guys, this is a budget build for a purpose. So it is for a road rally. I'm gonna probably pass by some maintenance that I would absolutely never do in the past. It's gonna pain me greatly to skip over maintenance items, but we're gonna need some performance mods for this thing to be fun, which is the whole point of doing a rally. It's gonna be fun and reliable. So we're gonna find that magical blend, or probably not, somewhere along the way. But anyway, let's get in the garage and get a little dirty. Don't mind the jumbled mess of wires in the trunk. I hate loose wires. So there was a sound system here at one point. Previous owner cut it with a knife right in front of me, shot sparks everywhere. So keeping the theme alive, just like the passenger seat. Guy was a knife maniac when it came to wiring. But anyway, they're all kind of passing through here. And I'm not a fan of loose wires. Here's that exhaust cutout, kind of plugs into a 12-volt source. So we'll keep that alive and well. It's too cool not to. But we'll come around. I've kind of taken apart the back seat here. I don't know if I had to take the whole thing off, but you got the wiring coming through here, so we'll trace that all the way up. One of these wires, I think it's this guy right here, goes right directly to the battery source. So I just want to get all this wiring out of here. I hate stuff like this when I see a car. It's always like a risk, isn't it, having just wiring everywhere. So we'll undo that. The black one we'll keep, obviously, for our exhaust cutout. And you can see that dark wire here coming through the firewall right there, kind of through the, looks like the backside of the glove box. So it runs over here, goes directly to our positive here. So we could undo that at that time. It's got a fusible link in there. So it's quite a sound system at one point, but we're not running any of that. So let's go ahead and disconnect that. I'm gonna disconnect the battery at this time too. I love amateur wire jobs. They soldered the wire to the positive terminal, so that's why you see these copper things here. So we'll get a wire brush, clean that up a little bit. Yikes. And we'll be able to pull those wires through. Up our terminals with a little wire brush here. Really gets the job done. Let's look at how you get all these through by hand. That'll be interesting. Looks like we picked up an extra cable somewhere. Gotta find where he goes. These two should come freely though. Excellent. Where do you connect? Let's go find out where he is. Moving extra wiring like this just heals my soul, guys. I don't know what it is, but hey, weight reduction at a minimum, less wires kicking around, it's killer. It's a good job, well done right there. All right, to access the passenger side motor mount, we're gonna slide this overflow little tank here out of the way. Should just slide up and out, and we can probably wiggle it. Got some wiggle room here. Yep, just kind of set it over there and say have a great day. I might disconnect this, put all the hoses up and clean it out. It's got a little plunk in it, you know, they just get dirty over time. But anyway, that pretty much opens up this engine mount. Before we start to remove the engine mount, let's go ahead and get a jack with a nice little 2x4 on there. Plenty of places to put under the oil pan area, so that should be pretty straightforward. Get it under there, just jack it up a little bit, doesn't have to go far, and it's just to get all the tension off the bolts. So slide that into place first, get it jacked up, and we can start to remove that mount. And there we have it, nicely supported on our jack. All right, so that makes sense. This little bracket going over to the top is held by the back ones. Once we remove that, we can get a shot on these two bolts that are pointing inward towards the engine. So let us continue on. We can then pull this bracket out. There's our last bolt. Motor mount should come right up now. There it is. Let's take a look at it. I actually believe this motor mount to be the original. It has the Ford Motor Company emblem on it. what's crazy is with 188,000 miles, maybe they replaced it with an OEM, but it does look properly old. You can see here a lot of wear up in here. You can see all these stressed rubber wear marks as it starts to dry rot. It does still have, these are packed with grease if you didn't know that. It still feels like there's grease in there, but boy, this whole structure is pretty floppy, so I don't really think it was doing its job. It was still holding the grease in, which is usually the clear sign of failure. But yeah, this is an original unit. Definitely time to come out of the car. Like I said, it was getting a little bit of that engine vibration, so I think our replacement's gonna take care of that. Let's clean up the area and then throw the new one in. All right, installation is the opposite of removal. I don't know why I need to say that, but let's just say it. See how the new unit lines up. Make sure all your bolt holes are the same. It looks about the same. All right, let's get this motor mount all bolted down. You're gonna put this brace that goes over. You know what? We can't just put this back in here like this. Let's clean this up first. You know how we roll with these kind of parts. Just so you know, it aligns like this. So the bolt is on the engine facing side of this brace. So let's clean it up first before we bolt it in. All right, I'm on legit crunch time. I don't need to be polishing this stuff, but I did take a wire wheel to this bracket. Guys, I've got a sickness. But anyway, it'll look nice in there. Let's drop it in. There's some kind of little notches on the motor mount itself. Boom, aligns perfectly. Now, depending on how high or low you have the motor, I always like to use a breaker bar to kind of line up these bolts. You don't want to strip these bad boys out. You don't want to cross thread them. So, motor mount is installed. So we got a fresh new motor mount in here. Let's go ahead and put the reservoir back and put the plastic covering on top of the motor. We got some more work to do. Job complete though. We are in the passenger wheel well, and this job is incredibly hard to film. It is the replacement of that turbo BPV, the bypass valve, which is integrated into the turbo housing. The best way to access it is through here. A lot of people have recommended dropping the axle. I don't want to do that. I took off the rotor and caliper of the brakes to get a little more access, and since I was doing a motor mount, I've got a jack, you can see it there looming in the background, supporting our motor. That way I can jack the engine, lower it, and get the location of the bypass valve to change. Where is that bypass valve? Well, let me show you. It's kind of a pain in the butt. It's back in there. You have to move the TCV out of the way. There you go. You can see one of those Allen bolts. It's way back there. Accessibility is impossibly hard. They're 5mm Allen or hex. I can't remember. Are they hex or Allen? Who knows? 5mm to get those out. Pain in the butt. I've already sprayed it with PB Blaster. That's why you're seeing a bit of moisture there. But I'm gonna jack the engine up and down to get those bolts at an easier spot. That's a little pro tip. But yeah, it's a pain in the butt, guys. So we're gonna take that off and replace it with this Turbo Smart unit, which is highly reviewed, a great fit for this car. The reason why you're gonna replace this is if you're doing a lot of spirited driving, which I'm gonna put about 1,000 miles on this car at the rally, the stock unit, especially at high mileage, 188K on this car, could definitely fail. And if that happens, it's just a cheap rubber diaphragm spring model in the stock unit. And if that fails, you don't get boost. And no boost in this awesome 5-cylinder turbo is gonna suck. That's the only way to put it. So replacing this with a better aftermarket unit will ensure I'll have plenty of fun boosting miles ahead of me. It's just a job. It's a huge job. It's gonna be hard to document the job, but I'll try to do my best. So I'm gonna get in there with a bunch, got a 1/4-inch ratchet I'm gonna use with various attachments, swivel heads, and then I have this really cool 5mm ball type socket here for this hex bit. And this allows you to hit different angles to get onto that hex bolt, which is a lifesaver. So I have some tape in there to hold the bit in. But yeah, overall, you're gonna need something like this to get in there and hit, because your angles are never gonna be straight on. I will lower the engine, like I said, to help out with that, but it's gonna be a job. And getting in there is a nightmare. As you can see, there's just a wall of stuff. So let's do it. Without a doubt, there's the OEM original Turbo BPV bypass valve. This little plate we're going to reuse because that's where we put the TCV, that basically that little sensor with all the vacuum hoses going to it. So we got to install that back in there. But you can see, obviously it comes apart. But it's very simple. Spring holds it into the plunger like so.
And then you have the bolts holding it to the unit. So that is the original bypass valve. And yeah, they just fail. The diaphragm, it's pretty flimsy rubber in there. This one is still holding up pretty good. And I don't see any signs of stress or anything on the rubber or on this plastic. Look at the rubber part of it now. There we go. It doesn't look too bad. But yeah, this diaphragm, if it rips or anything like that, it's actually made out of really good rubber. If that rubber is to fail, the turbo would not make any boost or hold boost. So, yep, we're replacing this little flimsy thing. Something interesting with the Turbo Smart is it's a 13 millimeter to take off the old one, but it's a 14 millimeter to put this angled one on. I kind of clocked it so it's the same angle as the OEM, so our vacuum hose will connect at the same point. Just trying to make everything easier for me when I go to install. So actually what's cool is this design does allow this to move. It's still rotatable, even though it is tightened down all the way. There is a rubber O-ring in there that keeps it vacuum tight, but I love design touches like that so you can adjust it. You don't have to clock it perfectly. So nice little bonus if you're going with this option. So let's go ahead and try to wedge this thing back in the car. I'm gonna clean up that little backing plate first too. This thing's pretty gnarly from being in the car so long, so let's clean it up with a wire brush a little bit and we'll get it back in there, ready to rock and roll. It's gonna actually tuck just behind the bypass valve, like so. So those little screws will hold it in place. Let's clean it up.
It's really hard to show this, but there's the new Turbo Smart CBV installed back there. Sense of accomplishment is very high after this job. It's a lot of patience, but it's installed. Time to put the TCV back in place, connect that vacuum line we disconnected. As you can see, I already connected, or maybe you can't see, connected the vacuum line to our TBV. So we should be good to go there. Patience on this one, guys. All right, let's put the TCV back in and we're good to go. What a job. Hopefully this thing makes a cool sound as a bonus. Let's go.